Is that okay? Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. Would have called him as TheMind. You know, if you know him outside of
I'm
this
calling
thing.
niggas Zig.
You can definitely call me Zig as well.
Hey G, no, I saw this motherfucker at the show. What was that, like last weekend at Empty Bottle? He was definitely on stage tipsy. Oh yeah, it was Pitchfork weekend. He was definitely on stage tipsy. That was a great time because I was in the crowd. I was drunk. Did you actually hear me like with the whole they took our jobs? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was very fun. That was
Definitely
very
fucked me up
fun.
on several occasions.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So it was a mixture of like being drunk and actually like
hanging with.
yeah, just like friends just yelling at you doing shows. It's the worst, but
I,
also the best.
Yeah, definitely. But this is another episode of the God to Grade A Living. I am Mars, aka Okra Winfrey.
This your boy Sir Kingsley, aka Drippington.
Ugh.
And
I go by the name of TheMind, aka Push.
oh,
AKA
nice.
Philly's most
Okay,
wanted,
okay.
AKA Philly's best kept secret.
It's fitting I got the
AKA
Pusha T
nigga, the
braids
next
now.
AI.
You know what I mean? But shit, where are we in the world? We've been talking and chat, just hanging out.
Facts.
Let's start with most anticipated acts for Lollapalooza weekend. That's coming up this weekend.
I don't even know the lineups.
Really?
I know Travis. I know
Yeah,
Doug.
Thug's gonna be there. I believe Uzi gonna be there. Cardi gonna be there.
I'm excited for like the Chicago acts.
Franz Ferdinand.
Chicago acts.
Yeah, it's
gonna be there.
Yeah.
Also, Knox Fortune is performing.
I did
shout
see
out Just
that.
One. He's
Just
DJing.
One is going to
Just
be DJing the thing. I think they got like an actual like aux-core DJs tent or something like that. Or maybe that's
Really?
North Coast. That's North Coast.
Wow.
They're like
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's
curating
crazy.
like different days. Like Lyrical Lemonade has a tent over.
They got a festival coming up.
Yeah, I
too,
know
though.
that one's going to be pretty tight as well. So there's a lot of activity going on. The after party is going to be crazy. Virgil's going to be in town this weekend. That's going to be epic.
Get y'all off whites together, kids.
Yeah. What's going to be amazing to me, like, I'm going to be salty if Travis Scott actually has a set build out for Lollapalooza because his album drops this weekend as well. And I'm not, it took me a minute to actually be a Travis Scott fan, but The Riot? Oh, yeah. This is his first time back ever since he started that riot at Lala a couple years. But he's like a bigger artist now, too. So it's like on a whole, like he high up on the list and all that shit. So it's super dope. He toured with Kendrick last year. Got the Jenner baby now. So like
and the Astro World pop-up is in different cities.
Yeah.
So it's in Astros and Astro World in Houston. It's in Atlanta. It's in a lot of different spots.
You gotta get my man.
So yeah, and I mean, he
hard.
did like a RSVP collab before, didn't he? So like he's got.
I don't think so.
He didn't. That's what I thought he did. Yeah. I think he did. So.
Oh, the rodeo. That was like 4 or 5 years ago.
So it's a lot of good. I feel like what many sometimes consider the culture, but at least a lot of like the hype
Shit,
and
see,
like
you
hype
in the
artists
culture.
are around it.
You did a festival.
Yeah.
I mean,
Several.
how is performing at a festival?
Yeah.
Performing at festivals is
Which was the first festival you performed at? Matter of fact,
jambalaya.
where's that?
Lit. Okay.
It's
Dallas.
It's in two different places in Texas or 3 different places. 2 different places.
I know Dallas, maybe Austin as well. Yeah.
And so you travel with the festival, which is raw. So
Whoa.
yeah, that was dope. And I think we did it with like Party Next Door.
And that was early jambalaya days.
It was like damn.
Was K-Tronado on that one too?
I'm not sure. I don't think.
'Cause I know he did one of those. Like Solection did one, and like niggas was talking about how it was only like Solection at that time, so like only certain people would dance and all that. Jambalaya is very ahead of his time.
We did
for
jambalaya.
Texas.
We did Bonnaroo. We did all of them back.
But I mean,
to back.
like when you
did like jambalaya, though, like what did you expect? 'Cause I know like a lot of people go into like say a basketball game or like the final, they don't know what to expect. What did you expect to go and do on a festival at first? Like?
So what happens is with festivals in general, I think like what people have to realize is that like most of the time, if you're not like a headliner, like
it's not your audience. This is a bunch of people who came to just see, you know what I'm saying, the specific headliners. And most of the people who sit in front of, especially if you're playing one of the biggest stages,
they're sitting in front of that stage waiting for whoever the Weeknd or whoever else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
true.
So you might get caught up in the crossfire of that. Like you might have a good slot and a good time, but like you know what I'm saying, or a good stage and a bad time slot, and then because of that, like that the fans won't be interacting with, as they should be. But like I think the one thing that you always want to do, you know, I think everyone knows like the reception that they're gonna get at a festival. You know, if you're like huge and like how you gonna pop, or if you're like not popping like that.
It will humble you.
Oh, it's gonna big humble you. It's not one of your shows. It's not a tour. Like everybody
True,
always says
true,
that. Like
true.
it's not a tour. It's not a tour show. And this, but sometimes the times when you get the surprise of like going, like we played Bonnaroo and we played like a smaller stage, but
That's
like,
still a really big festival.
it's
though.
a huge
Yeah,
festival.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it was one of the smaller stages, but like literally you like it was a sea of people. You know what I'm saying? But everybody was like on trees and shit like that, singing all of the words and shit like that.
That's
And that shit was
tight.
dope.
That's
So,
really tight.
yeah.
And I feel like something like a Bonnaroo, you can get a lot more draw of people that go on
Most
like road trips and stuff from around a region,
Yeah.
or even nationally, like really traveling in. Versus like I know Jambalaya, for instance, just to bring that up, like that was such a Texas thing. Like
Yeah.
you really didn't have to like go from Dallas to Austin or
Facts.
Houston. Like that was just the people that are in that city, and those cities aren't necessarily the biggest and most hip. No disrespect to Texas, but Texas is in its own like island.
Hey,
Anyway.
Texas, I don't feel
lived
like
down
that
there
about
for
you.
a minute.
I don't feel like that about you. He feel like that
He
about
don't.
you.
I do. I've been down there. I
know
lived
that
down there
all.
for a
Shout out
minute.
Houston.
I had a girlfriend down
H-Town.
there. Had a nice little bit of friends. Still got friends down there, but
I saw you in Texas.
yeah. I
Yeah, we
did. I
talked
did.
about
Well,
it.
yeah, on the same show. Oh, and that was when y'all did the gang show. And it was the nigga with the wheelchair. I still got that in my Snapchat videos.
terrible,
It was
bro.
a mosh pit. We just moshed around a dude in a wheelchair. But he was
Wow.
he was hitting it.
I'm
though,
gonna
G,
tell
I
you
ain't gonna
something
lie.
that I'm still embarrassed about from that same exact day. All right, so what happened was, right? So dude was in a wheelchair. That's not funny. That's
No,
not
not the
that's not the
yeah,
funny
yeah,
part.
that's not the
The funny part about it is dude was in a wheelchair and I didn't see him, and so like during this gang, we all throwing water and shit like that, like super high.
Oh,
You know what I'm
shit.
saying? And so I'm throwing water or whatever like that, and I didn't realize that I was throwing it in the exact same direction. And then I like threw a bottle, and then I heard somebody say "ah," and then and so like when the show's over or whatever like that, like people start peeling back, and then you just see this dude in the wheelchair soaked in fucking water and just with a bottle in his lap. He talking about, "Hey man, why you throw all that water at me?" I was like, "Yo, this is not on purpose, bro. I apologize."
Wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
he was like, "Come
He
on, bro."
sat there and waved.
He literally waited. I mean, he couldn't move.
He couldn't
It was like-
move.
it
He
was
in a
hella
wheelchair in the
people.
crowd.
He in a wheelchair,
No,
but he wasn't.
But
no
in the
jerk.
crowd, it was a lot of people.
There was a lot of people. It was like really.
Like anybody would have been pissed if the motherfucker in the
Most
wheelchair
definitely.
tried to like move around. Like you got to sit still at the concert, bro. And you in a wheelchair. You not actually
I
like
seen a nigga in a wheelchair at a juke
two-steppable.
party before.
Did he get juked on?
Oh yeah, he was through that.
That's very raw.
Again,
Were they
I don't
both in
feel any
wheelchairs?
type of way about people
No.
with handicaps.
This shit is tight.
and
This
in
is not like
wheelchairs.
this is
I
not
love
like a novelty
everybody.
thing. This is like having like a white friend that got hella juice and like hella black girls. Like it's like just
yeah?
a thing. It's just like another thing that you don't see every day. I'm here for my wheelchair community, but that's also super tight. That's super raw.
Again, internet.
What's
I
wrong?
do not
I'm
feel
here-
the
I'm
same
here for the
way
wheelchair
that
community.
he feels about this.
Hey, G, I got
I'm not
handy-
treating my wheelchair friends like unicorns over here. But with that being said, what's the second craziest shit you ever seen on tour?
What,
the
bro?
wheelchair community.
You been,
I'm
you've been in
sorry.
Europe, right? You've been on tour in Europe.
Yeah. The crazy.
'Cause I know you've been. I know. So ever since me and you've been friends, I think you've been on tour in Europe like every year.
Yeah, no, I've been on tour every year. Yeah, since like 2015.
God damn it, that
Shout out,
was
shout out.
when you left the
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck having a job. He got on tour after that.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man. I remember quitting the job. I remember like seeing Mars and being like, I'm gonna quit this motherfucker. Like every goddamn that. For people who don't know, me and Mars used to work at Trunk Club together, and
Yeah.
and
I
like,
must didn't see him there when I was there.
Oh, you didn't? You was always gone.
damn, you
Yeah.
was out of there.
I was Mr. Work once a week.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy, dog. Yeah, I was barely there, and then Mars did this thing where he started playing my music or the songs that I was featured on. Like,
Oh
the
yeah,
goddamn
because they would
speakers.
let me play music there. Before I was
Yeah.
DJing and had a radio show.
Bruh.
I was on
I already
there.
knew how that felt, G.
bro, it felt
Picking shit.
bro, picking actual cotton, bro, that shit felt terrible, bro.
Very-
like
yeah,
I
it
was
was
actually
different.
in there. I felt god awful because then like at first nobody knew who, like they didn't know like that was me on the records and shit
Yeah.
like that.
I was just trying to support.
He was supporting and it was love, dog. He did that, and then I think directly after that he was like, "Oh yeah, that's it." And then everybody was like, "What?" They was like, "Oh my God, it's TheMind." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm in here picking this shit just like you, my man. Like, you know what I mean? That shit not on the radio. This shit just like Mars put this on, bro.
Exactly.
Like this is, I like this. It's a big song, but it's just like, man, come on, bro. Like, let's get back to it. And then that just started getting worse and worse because like Mars wasn't there sometimes, and then other people would be requesting them songs on there. And then it just got like more and more songs, and then I was like, "Come on, man!" And I was like, "I gotta quit this fucking
You
job."
became a big fish in a small pond.
Worse, a fucking needle in a haystack, bro. Like that shit was like, I didn't feel like I stuck out in any way, shape, or form. Besides the fact that the music was playing, like you know what I'm saying, because there was so many people in there who were aspiring rappers and artists and
dream,
yeah,
that was a good job. I would feel like to chase the dream. I remember
most definitely.
So many of my friends hired it just so they could be around each other and like that creativity just rub off on each other.
Yeah, he got me the job in that motherfucker. Yeah.
Who?
Kingsley.
Damn it, you got me the job in there.
That's my best friend got me the job there just because I wanted some extra money, man.
Yeah.
Damn. Right.
So after you quit Trunk Club, what was the first spot on tour though? Do you remember the first place on tour?
South by. I actually asked for 2 weeks off to do South by, and I did South by, and then I came back after that. And I remember saying like, yo, I'm not going back to work there. I just can't do it. And I think I went back like for like 2 days or some shit like that. And then literally was like, I can't do this. And then I quit on like that third day. And then me and Mick went on tour together. We did the Waters tour. And then after that, we did the European run of the Waters tour together. You know what I'm saying? And it was just, after that, it was just like, yeah, it just kept on happening after that. I was like, oh, another tour? Can we get on another tour? Can we do some other stuff? And surprisingly enough, before I went on tour with no album out, I only had like the features that I had did with that I did with Mick, and I was performing a whole album that nobody had heard before. So that was like very awkward, you know what I'm saying?
See the people reaction from the album that wasn't even out yet. How did you feel?
It was dope. It was really dope in Europe. Like when we were in Europe and we started doing when I started doing summer camp shit, like just watching people being like, yo, I have no clue who this dude is, but by like the second chorus they were like singing all the words. That shit was dope for me. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, and I just think like that the European music lover, like the way that they respond to new music in general, people just go to shows that they don't even know of people
to experience and take it in. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're just trying to experience music. So for me to come over there as an artist from America, they thought I already made it. They were like, "Oh, you made it! Like you're in Europe. Like you're performing music.
Yeah.
Like
you know what I'm saying? Like, world, though. Yeah."
And so like it was that whole thing. Whereas like I had been watching like all of these movies since I was a kid and reading stories about people being able to travel and perform in Europe and in Asia and all over the world. And they weren't famous, but it was still like.
But I mean, you come from a rich music city like the Roots. Yeah. I mean, like Jill Scott. Yeah. Like I mean, like growing up, shit. Even Music Soul Child. Thinking about it, I mean, growing up.
Cassette Michelle, Patti LaBelle.
Yeah.
Like
it's
you name
heavy.
it.
I mean, the old Philly soul sound, which still like it's a long legacy. Yeah. It's a very long.
So a lot of that, you would say, a lot of that inspired the music today.
Hell yeah. I think like Teddy Pendergrass, like all of these guys, like
Blue Notes,
you know what I'm saying, like.
So deep.
All these I grew up in foster care, so my foster mom, she used to like play all of like the Osley Brothers and a bunch of other, and Patti LaBelle and Teddy Pendergrass. Like we took a trip down to Florida one time, and I had like a Walkman or CD player or some shit, and I think it died like halfway through, and so like I was like felt like I was in purgatory, just like literally listening to this Teddy Pendergrass CD on fucking repeat. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, oh, my God, like, please just turn this shit off. It's like 8-hour, 9-hour drive. I'm like, please just turn it off. Right. So, but, like, I think I didn't realize my appreciation for that musical selection until, like, I got a little bit older and I started to listen to it myself and was just like, oh, my God, like, y'all was snapping. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then my appreciation for that, and then it went into like just the hip hop world that was created out of Philly as well. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the Beanie Sigel, the State Property, that whole entire conglomerate, like you know what I'm saying, which then the Rockefeller connection and everything else, like which then spawned my love for Kanye, which then spawned my love for Chicago, like which then started all of this very early. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I think like looking back on everything, like. All of that soul sound to in Philly's music is the reason why I try to sing now. You know what I'm saying? So
that's interesting. That's because I was actually going to say, even though it wasn't really like how you started talking about Chicago and like I know you went to Columbia. Yeah. I met you when we were all going there and everything. Yeah. Even before like the Them People era, like that Swaxis era, I was literally just thinking of Insomniac and your verse on Insomniac. That was like. When I first actually like started smoking bud with like Justin, all that shit back then, like that music really, really, really hit me. And I mean, collectively for all of y'all niggas is individually like super raw, as a team super raw as well. But everybody is like so ahead of their time. Like I honestly considered y'all like prodigies, even though we were young, maybe not like teenagers, but like young adults that are like,
I mean, we was
light years ahead
was in our
of
teens.
like,
we was like 19,
18, 19, yeah, and like just light years ahead conceptually from like niggas that's just like boom to tap, boom, boom tap. Like niggas is really like making songs at a very young age, and to see how far you've progressed and everybody that like we fuck with progress on that tip, because like the community and the circle that we had of people that we were around at that given moment is so raw. Whether it be you, them people, Devin, like he's played me some of his new shit that he's working on. Like I heard some shit that he played for me that Greedy made when he was up in New York. That's like just mind fucking blowing. Like that same bed and pool that comes from Philadelphia, you kind of ended up walking into a collective of young creatives, I feel like, in Chicago that really, really, really is very on a similar trajectory, in my opinion.
For sure. I think if we even look at those classes, I think from like, I want to say to like, I damn near could say like from 06 to, I want to say, class of 2012. I don't even go 2012.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's a couple of young ones out there that's like
it just it like I don't know what it spawned out of that situation. Like I don't know what was going on in that, but I will like I think like that from 06 to 09 was crazy. And then like the ones that got sprinkled in through 2011 to 2012, it was just like, man, the creatives that even just came out of Philly, like, you know what I'm saying, the Quinta Brunsons, the Gianni Lees, like, you know what I'm saying, like all these people who are like just like budding artists, not even just in the field of music, but like just artists in general. And I think that's even crazy because we all went to the same high school together. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I remember you did tell
so
me that.
it's just like looking at all of that. I think at that time, like there were so many people who wanted to just elevate sound. I mean, even when I came here and we were like looking at the cool kids and just like how they wanted to like morph the sound of 80s. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm Mikey, I Rock is still a bang.
You know what I'm saying? Like it was just brighter sounds. It was all this other stuff. It was taking hip hop out of this place where you had to be a certain type of individual to be in hip hop, and then it went to a place where, you know what I'm saying, you could just like literally, what's your story?
That's
Tell
the
it.
Kanye West effect.
Exactly.
Like,
no,
really,
it is.
Yeah.
You
that
know,
Purple
extremely.
Polo did a big thing for the game, man.
Yeah.
Question. No.
Reverted how?
Because of how much, like, it's a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Steve Stout was saying that the talent is never.
The fame has never been further away from where talent is.
And now look, when you first started off music, and the conversation started off, like at 21, 19, a lot of people in the city were super talented and are super talented. Now compared to how the music game is right now, and most artists are 19, 20, 21 years old, the whole quote you said was right there. Like
the difference is, the only problem is, like, then there was still like you mentioned the A&R aspect, you know what I'm saying, and just like artist development.
It was the last leg of that.
Yeah, it was just like we still knew that there was so much more that we needed to do. Like, you know what I'm saying, if you ask me right now if I thought that I was ready at 18, 19, I wasn't. Like, you know what I'm saying, like you could have put me on, but I don't think that I would have created something, you know, that could change the world. Like at that time I was just saying shit that I felt like I knew melody sounded good. I knew, like, you know, how to make, you know, rhythm sound. Like I knew all of that shit, but I just didn't know, like, to tell a story, to say some shit that meant something. And I think like when you're at that age, like especially 18 and 19, like you're still trying to figure who you are.
Yeah, it's not a lot of Nas's out there, Joey Badasses that are like called a prodigy as well when like you on your last leg of high school, like OG's really like, yo, like you got it, kid.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of them out there.
But I think that conversation then spawns in or spans into the conversation of publications and everything else that happens with that situation.
True.
Because then you got to look at it from the standpoint of like people actually looking, and music critics. Now we're in a place where everything is accepted. Like you can't say that anything is weak. You can't say that anything.
Music critics had kind of like was like extinct, and the bloggers became the new.
But there was still good, reputable bloggers out there with good opinions.
But in that same.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but in that Clickplay, like two dope boys became a fake short drive. It became became so many different websites with so many different blogs, so many people writing. It'd be like, man, fuck these blogs. I'm just gonna do it my own. That's what the artist did.
Yeah.
And it became like, oh, you don't like me, you hating on me.
That's this whole new generation we're in now.
But in that same conversation, there was I forgot. I don't know if it was Steve Stout, but someone had said that like Jay-Z was talking about like he's like, do you know that people don't know there's a difference between a blogger and a reporter? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, do you know that people like, there's no investigation aspect to what anyone does anymore as far not what anyone. I'm not gonna say that.
I mean, a blogger.
Most publications, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like a blogger is more of like a content aggregator. Like you're collecting things to like
it's mood boards.
Yeah, exactly.
It's mood
like
boards.
we
literally Tumblr started as like a place where people you could go put stuff on there that you liked and stuff like that, and then blogs became Tumblrs. Like you know what I'm saying? Like people then moved from doing bloggers to WordPress,
which I think
they
consider to be
like
mini
actual blogs. And so like when you start looking at that aspect, just like everything is opinion based. When in actuality some things aren't based on your opinion. Some things actually have fact to it. You know, you can say like, yo, you're like that's a fact.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like it really like if you listen to it, it's off.
It's
at
off.
a point in time, like you couldn't steal somebody's flow, or you had many different flows, but like now it's like everybody sounded the same. It's like you said it right. Art development is gone.
Yeah.
It's like you want to rap, you feel like you're a hot song moving to put it out, and it's taken away from the culture, the art form of it all. It's really diluting, and it's really becoming like now pop art.
It's scary because like I feel that I'm up in the era with that thought, because I feel like more so like Banksy at the end of Exit through the gift shop, and he was just like, and he was talking about Mr. Brainwash, and he was like, well, is he bad? He's like, I mean, is he good? Like, I don't know. Like, did he finesse all of us, or is he actually cold? Like, you know what I'm saying? And then we got to start asking that question, and I feel like that's where we're at right now, where we're like asking the question of like, is this shit cold, or are we just?
Because it's.
Can we not? Yeah, could we not say that it's not cold?
Really getting brainwashed.
To a degree, like I will say, also this is a very young person driven market right now, like, even more than
like so many different avenues.
I mean, like, but there's somebody that you may not necessarily like that like other people are into, and I can't necessarily say that they brainwash just because I don't fuck with it. Like I can legitimately.
That's what we're saying. Like everything is a very opinion based aspect. Like that's the point that Banksy took when he was just basically like, I can't say that that's weak because I don't like it, but I also can't say that it's hot because you like it.
Right,
you see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just
you
like
his opinion
exactly. And I think like that's the and when we have that space, how can we have music critics if everything is based on an opinion? Because that's the first thing that somebody could say to discredit you. The first thing that they could say is like, yo, that's your opinion, and it's like. No, like, so are there no, like, experts in this shit anymore?
Yeah. Kind of like undercuts it when it's like, if you give a big explanation like Pitchfork will, but then it's like, but there's still 10 million people in the world listening to it.
Yeah, and I mean,
regardless.
Like, but even like, all right, so Pitchfork.
I knew a chick who was younger than us, who said I used to ask her like, do you listen to this song? She was like, I don't listen to none of this music. She was black. She said, I don't listen to popular music.
Yeah. She said she only listens to popular music.
Facts. And she was an East Coast motherfucker. I don't listen to popular music. If it's not on the radio or top 100, I don't know it. Don't care.
That's most people though. That's why it's the mainstream sound at the end of the day. So,
even past that point, like if you go to playlisting, like you know what I'm saying. That's why it became such a big thing because like people didn't want to pick out their own music. Like you got to look at it like this. You got to look at it from the standpoint like this. The new age of crate digging or people going to record stores and stuff like that. Like I still like. I'm old enough to remember FYEs and record stores, and going to the record store and having to put on them nasty ass headphones and like play the joint, the little sample joints or whatever like that. I remember that shit. I remember demo discs on PlayStations and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So when we had to pick through, like, if you could play a little piece of this and decide whether you like it, that doesn't exist anymore. Now people just
think it's easier and easier and easier. Like. You went from actually like getting frozen food and like in the 70s, like, oh, that's a big deal, to 80s, I'm getting pizza, to now like, shit, I can get anything from any restaurant in a drop of a dime just like this. It's like
literally
everything is so instantaneous now and so easy to access. It's like, damn.
So my this technology affords us that. That is an innovation, and it does make life simpler for a lot of people. I, being a very critical person myself, which everybody knows this, had to come to a point to really realize that most people don't give a fuck about shit the same way that we do. Like, we are actually really on this shit. So, like how Jake was mentioning Pitchfork and all that, I remember a couple years ago, because if you're in a publication of some sort, that legitimizes you to most people.
Yeah.
Remember a couple years ago when it was a big controversy about, like, Complex said that the Race Rimmer album was, like, #1 and the Kendrick album was, like, #2.
Yeah.
Everybody had a crazy hoopla about it. Honestly, like, for me,
You
I
agree?
would say no. I would say that the Kendrick album on an art level is tighter. But when Complex came through and gave their argument and talking about impact and all that shit, I still listen to those songs off that Race Rimmer album more than I do the Kendrick joint to this day.
I understand that, but you got to also look at it like it's like going to a museum versus like fast food. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's no shade towards like fast food, or that's no shade towards any. Like, I'm just saying, like, at the end of the
McDonald's
day,
doing more than Bo Nobles and El Cheval. But
exactly.
it's like,
I'm not.
you know.
I don't want to go into like I don't want to go into a museum every single day and see the same pieces of art. Like, there's certain moments when I get to experience that art and I get to say like, oh my God, this was amazing.
Right.
This affected me in this way. Whereas like McDonald's is right down the street and they're on every corner. So therefore, like, if I wanted to go to a McDonald's, I can. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, whereas like now we have art, which is an experience now, and sometimes you don't want to experience shit all the fuck. Like, you don't
it's a
want
lot
that
to really take in.
You don't want to go through that vibe every fucking time, like that
Yeah.
you listen to it.
Yeah.
And so I think when you start doing that, like, it's still a comparison of the matter.
One doesn't want to be too pretentious about shit either, like.
Yeah.
It's good to have standards, and it's good to have great taste and elevated standards so you can actually be able to differentiate your Oshawals from your McDonald's. But at the same time, it's like, bro.
You listen to jazz, right?
Of course, I'm a jazz head.
You listen to jazz? So y'all don't listen to jazz all the fucking time.
No.
It's a certain mood that you have to be in when you listen to jazz, right? But you wouldn't, like, if you had to compare like a Miles Davis album to fucking Lil Skies, you wouldn't say like, yo, hey bro, like, yo, this Lil Skies might go a little bit harder than this Miles Davis.
like Miles Davis with Migos. You ain't finna listen to Miles Davis with Migos.
But Virgil Abloh
but if I
literally
walk-
DJ'd
That shit-
a Miles
that shit
Davis
was disrespectful.
record
That shit was
right before.
disrespectful.
That wasn't disrespectful, bro. That was very raw. That's
That
one
shit-
of the
that shit wasn't
hardest.
that
That
raw.
was one of the
Niggas
hardest
gassed up
mixes
Virgil
ever.
so much,
Nah,
niggas get
G,
off his
because ain't
fucking
nobody
dick.
even think.
Hey,
Nobody's
Virgil, I don't
thinking
feel
about
like this
DJ.
about you.
Bro,
Virgil.
that was so
Virgil, I
what
love
with
you.
T-shirt. That shit is
Niggas
hard.
don't even all
That
white
shit is
shit be on his
hard.
dick so hard.
That
It's
shit is
like,
hard.
get off his man's
Virgil,
That shit was
I've
hard,
never felt
bro.
this way in my life.
I've
Virgil
never
shit
heard a
is
nigga do
hard
that.
right now.
I've been waiting on somebody to do
Specifically how he
that.
feels.
That doesn't mean shit about
Virgil,
whether or not that
when
was
I
a
tell you,
bad
I
move
don't
or not.
feel
That
like
shit was
this.
tight,
This has
bro. That
nothing
shit was
to do
tight.
with
Like you like my man said, in your opinion, it was tight. In my opinion, it wasn't. Like I said,
I bet if you was drunk at that party, you
hold
would've
on,
been
I
lit
said,
too,
let me
like
finish.
everybody
Can I
else.
finish my point? Like I said, the niggas be on Virgil's dick.
Virgil, I don't feel
I'm
this
a
way.
Virgil fan, but I'm not on his dick. He's just a regular mortal man to me. Like niggas say it was clean. It was
Hey, Virgil,
clean.
in my eyes, you're a god. I'm fucking with you.
Send my nigga to send my
If
nigga
I go to
off
that
white.
after party this weekend and I hear that
I'm
shit, I'm
playing.
gonna spaz because I got to hear it in
playing.
person.
And
Because
I'm
that
playing.
nigga's
But no, like
raw,
no,
bro.
but that's facts though. Like I think like there has to be a level of objectivity. Like, you know what I'm saying, where we have to sit up there and really ask ourselves like, yo, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? And I think like now, like I said, we're in a place now where like anything that you do that is like, it's not even avant-garde. It's like anything that you do that's like weird now, motherfuckers like, ooh, that's art. And that's
or
not
anybody
art.
opinion feel like their opinion feel like they're so way down, like their opinion is so right compared to somebody else's opinion. Like, who made you? Like,
Yeah.
who gave you this credit? Who gave you this award? What have you done in your life to make you feel like, boom, you accomplished this, you can say this?
But in the same
And
sense,
then
we
even
can
if
say
you-
that
Didn't
about
even do
somebody
shit
that
well.
opposes
Didn't
it
even
as
do shit
well.
But you know what the crazy part about it is, even if you are accredited, and even if you do have those like, you know,
Like we said
those
earlier.
those things, no one cares. Like they'll
Exactly.
literally be like, I don't care. Like they'll literally. Yeah,
LeBron, like, no matter how much LeBron does, people like, no.
I don't care. I don't like him. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's your opinion. I just think that that's the beauty of having like different news outlets and having different blogs and stuff like that. But also we can't get to a point where like, you know, because if you research something specifically, like if we all went to college, like when you research some shit or whatever like that, and you had to cite sources, different sources, not the same exact one, because if you did, that's a skewed perception of some shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, therefore, like if you get your news, if you want to see the full picture, you know what I'm saying, you have to then look
Right,
at
because
several
someone
different
can
things.
say that they don't like a Matisse or a Duchamp, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he is still like one of the greatest and most influential artists of all time.
Big facts.
So it's like, you know, it's all about one's own individual opinion.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, like, I am a person that cites sources. Like, I love that Virgil shit because y'all know me. You listened to me DJ before. I've DJ'd actual, like, bossa nova and trap and jazz alongside each other. So for him to have something like that happen, So What is the opening record to the greatest selling jazz album of all time by Miles Davis, who is the greatest, most selling jazz artist of all time. And for him to be able to mix that with Migos, who were the hottest artists on the planet at that moment, and still one of the hottest rap groups, and that was their lead single, like, that was still dope. And it's not a lot of DJs that can think of that type of shit and actually be able to do that seamlessly. So for that was raw to me, conceptually and on a technical level. I'm relating one fucking thing because he said something about citing sources, but I just cited sources about how important and special that moment actually was. Like, I'm like, niggas respect my opinion because I know what the fuck I be talking about. Like, I'm not a nigga that just like everything. Some things are my thing or whatever, but I remember, like, back in the day, I played y'all Odd Future for the first time. Y'all niggas like, what the fuck is this? Then the niggas ended up on motherfucking Jimmy Fallon, and Tyler's Tyler now, Earl's Earl, and the internet's internet.
I fucked with it.
Like,
but
that shit was, but like, that was a very abstract thing, and I was like, yo, these niggas is next, and niggas was like, bro.
But
it's like,
but you that's you though, like, you know what I'm saying, and I have to give you credit where credit is due with that because you've always been ahead of the curve. They're special individuals who have the ability to see or have the foresight to be like, oh, like, yo, this shit is y'all just missing out, y'all just not hearing it or whatever like that. But that's some people who dibble and dabble in a bunch of different things, like, you know what I'm saying. I remember, like, I would get in arguments with my big homies and shit like that, and they would just be like, oh, man, you got to stand for this shit. And I was like, well, ain't no hill that I'm going to die on, my nigga. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because there's certain things that I change my mind about some shit next week because I'll get information that'll then tell me, like, nah, I'm wrong. Right. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of ways that I thought when I was living on 77th Avenue. There's a lot of ways that I was feeling like when I was living in Sharp Neck in Philly or whatever like that. And I felt when I was living in North Philly, there was a bunch of ways that I felt that I do not feel anymore. Right, you know what I'm saying? And I had to experience life in order for me to change that shit. And so I think being cultured individuals, like being able to see the world or whatever, because now the majority of people have the world at their fingertips, or they think that they do. You know what I'm saying? The perception of or opinions in general, like, have now kind of gone away. Look at even Rotten Tomatoes. Like, it got to a point where, like, there was a specific amount of people who were going to Rotten Tomatoes to see, like, what the rating was and wanted to see that shit. And now it's like, it's in motherfuckers' commercials now. Like, Rotten Tomatoes is
which is like Yelp for fucking movies.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you realize what you could do in the power of numbers, like, no matter what, like.
But you can skew numbers in any way, shape, or form.
Facts.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could put numbers to prove your opinion on anything in this world right now. You just have to word it differently. Like, it literally works.
So you remember when Get Out came out, and Get Out was like the highest rated shit, and niggas went out of their way to hate on it just to make sure it wasn't like the
to drop
best.
the numbers down.
Yeah. I think that is. There's still a level of resistance, especially when it comes to black art, and skepticism when it comes to us even sometimes doubting ourselves, where we just don't always see the bigger picture in situations. And I think
you feel like Get Out was the greatest movie of all time?
I don't think it was the greatest movie of all time.
No, but I think by Rotten Tomato standards, it would have
Muggs voted for it, but like that opinion and also the resistance of being able to give somebody that is very, very, very real and apparent. And I think to a certain degree, it's a reason why Sorry to Bother You is not a mainstream mainstream national thing right now. Like, you can only go see it at like maybe 3 or 4 theaters around the city right now. Right. But Sorry to Bother You is dope, and I've actually heard a lot of people say that they like it more than Get Out.
I would agree. Alan, what do you think about Sorry to Bother You? You think it was better than Get Out?
No. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Wait, what's up? Wait, we talking about the movie?
Yeah, Sorry to Bother You. Like, what do you guys think about the movie? Because
glasses.
I gotta get ready to wrap up.
Oh, okay.
Swing me? Oh, because honestly, like, that shit was very special. It was different, and I love like the undertones. I have to go see it again just to like catch some of the other stuff. I went to see Get Out when it was like at the park. blah 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 last week or whatever, and that was maybe my fifth time seeing Get Out, but it's still so many extra layers that were in that movie that I peeled back and was like, wow, like this shit is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. I don't know if it's my all-time personal favorite, but my all-time personal favorite is like City of God. That's not going to be everybody's that's like an opinion-based type of thing. Yeah. You know, like
Dope ass movie.
you know, it's like that for a lot of different things or whatever when people are just talking about their opinions and how they feel about it. But like, all right,
it's a pretty
Get
good
Out.
Movie. I mean, it's a pretty good movie for the summer. I mean, one of the black movies, one of the best black movies of the summer. I can give it that. But
Well, there ain't that many black movies for real, but
black movies out there.
there's a lot of black actors in movies. But that's probably maybe the blackest movie I done seen with just that much shit going on
Black
and that much
director,
social
black,
commentary.
had
so on
had
and so
actor, black
forth.
everything. Yeah.
I do need to go see the other joint, that Buddy based in Oakland or whatever. The
shooting movie. That just
yeah,
came out, I think,
that
last
one,
week.
that
There's
one,
a
that
couple
one, that one,
movies
that one, that
out
one.
that's, like for black people. So,
But no, Sorry to Bother You was like really tight, and
but no, you said for black people in general. Like the movie
Right.
I seen about the Oakland shooting, that one was about black people, whatever. That movie that's gonna come out about the KKK.
oh, the Black Klansman. That's the Jordan
funny.
Peele, Spike Lee joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking
Coming
forward to
out.
that one. Who I did read.
Which one was a drug dealer saved the day?
Yeah.
Oh damn! And I went to go see that, but that one I don't know. That didn't really hit me. Like Sorry to Bother You was probably my favorite movie I've seen.
I think if that Purge movie was actually like a book, that shit would have been raw.
Yeah,
Just like looking at like the concept of like you, huh?
Who reads?
People read.
people still
I
read.
think reading is actually coming back,
Yeah.
and it's very sad to say that
it's
reading.
wavy. It's definitely wavy.
Yeah,
The
like-
thing is, it's more fake news. Not fake news. They're actually like changing history. So like,
And you
a
can
lot
get
of
that.
Liberians were saying like in Washington D.C. like a month ago how they actually trying to like reinvent the library systems or whatever because a lot of news is being rewritten. If you look in like at news, a lot of like history that happened like in the Middle East or whatever, they're rewritten it to like their favor. Like we might have lost the war, but we finna
You
like,
win the
we won
wars,
war.
you write the fucking history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because that's and then like white people have dictated like what's been written in history books for so goddamn long. Like most people are aspiring to like a Eurocentric standard of education as well. You want to go to Oxford, you want to go to Howard more than you want to go to Hampton or some other shit like Harvard, not Howard, but you get what the fuck I'm saying. So like that's a whole thing.
Real
in and of
HU.
itself. But I mean, and like I don't always like seeing like the debate of like PWIs versus like HBCUs, but that is very good discourse I think to have. Like I'm into like reading a lot of Ta-Nehisi Coates right now. He's super big on the fact that he went to Harvard. They call it the Mecca. I mean Howard. Call it the Mecca. So on and so forth. Howard and Harvard. I don't
He
know.
gonna doing that on purpose.
You performed at any HBCUs?
No, we performed at Yale though.
Oh shit, how was that?
That shit was raw.
Getting that PWI
How was that
money.
campus?
Raw. Raw as hell. I think like, I think I want to do an HBCU tour, and I want to do that shit like
They
the
need
next
to bring
year.
those back. Actually,
Yeah, I want
They
to do
need
that in the
bring those
next
back.
year or whatever like
the
that.
BET used to do
Those
back
are
in the day?
special.
Not
Those are
even
very
like, not
special.
even. Oh my god, man! Like, yeah.
Back
Because you
college
know how
tour.
BET used to go to
Yeah.
HBCUs and like show them love and
College
stuff like
tour.
Yeah,
that.
and it used to be
Those my
AJ and
shit.
Free used to be on the campus.
Yeah, but
and
like
shit.
even
Yeah.
before BET was doing it, like Russell Simmons and them would like just organize some shit and like really be at
Shout
like
out to
Clark
Russell for playing the country.
Atlanta,
Shout out Freaknik.
Morehouse, FAMU,
but I think
shit
like
that.
But I
He's
think
playing the country. He's
who?
in the process. Russell.
We'll say where.
He did, bro. He went to Bali. He went to Bali. He's selling all his houses. It's not a good look
He's
because
selling
I
crack, he's
love
selling
Russell
crack.
so much, but that is not a good
Freaky
look.
man
You
on
look
that fat farm
guilty.
was real freaky.
And they said that Bali doesn't
What would you
extradite
let
to
him hear
America,
on
so
the
it's
outside?
like, yeah,
You
he
already
chose the
know.
right country to not get brought back over for. So,
They can't
yeah,
extradite from over
Chilling with
yeah,
Woody
bro.
Allen,
I got his
Zelensky,
book
set
Life and
up.
Death
Huh?
from like the
No, it's
no
just
charges. Yeah, it's just hella
Accusations.
accusations. Well, not hellas, but enough. He like Weinstein
three.
level.
And said,
He getting up there.
And he said me too on his Twitter. So you know how that goes.
And then you saw he was trying to get Terry
Yikes.
Crews to
Yeah,
remake his
it's not a good look. It's really not a good look. But
Caught an
you
email.
know, like
it was
just
like his homie. This dude was a song.
Regardless of all of that, like just black education, black economics, and even like black art is really at a heightened level right now. And I think that is something that we should, like, I'm not here to condone quote unquote bad art, but at the same time, like, one could have argued that Friday was a quote unquote terrible movie in the sense that let me breathe. I've been getting cut off this whole time.
I'm gonna let you roll.
I've been getting cut off this whole time. No, like in the sense of like a bad movie, like they consider a Pineapple Express like a quote unquote bad movie. These are great movies, obviously iconic, transcended pop culture, other shit. Friday is a good movie
call these
too.
Bad movies.
Yeah, who is
You guys don't know about the. You
I
guys
thought you doing a Khaled thing right now.
No, G, like
I feel
people,
what he's saying.
people consider like a half-baked a bad movie. Like there's certain like tiers of like what's a good or bad movie, like Oscar worth,
I get what you're saying.
deepness and all that other shit. So like in that realm, Friday could have been considered that, but it's still around. It's a franchise. Ice Cube literally changed Black Hollywood in a sense. Like he put his foot down in Black Hollywood by doing that, and he's been around to produce other shit. So I think that we should be allowing everyone to get a little bit of a piece of this pie at this moment. Like
I think you brought up a valid point. I think the what we have to be protective over is the simple fact of like still being able to judge things and critique things. And I think like we're at a very incubator stage or phase with like black art where like we can't really pass judgment because these are the first feet in the fucking door. You know what I'm saying? And everyone like stumbles on when they first start to walk. You know what I'm saying? Or first learn to run. So I think like that's what's happening right now. So there are some really not even bad, but there are some things that like we can't even really honestly critique because like as soon as we say it's bad, we like kind of shoot ourselves in the foot for the next, this next,
5-10 years.
Black female director to get in there, or this black woman or women of color in general directing films. Anybody who comes from that thing. One film that I felt was god awful. I'm not gonna say it because
let it air. Let it air.
You can't just tease it.
it was god awful. It was that Natalie Portman film that just came out recently.
I don't think I saw that one. I don't be too much into the Natalie Portman. I'm not into it.
I don't know. It didn't make any fucking sense.
La La Land?
No. I'm talking about that won Oscars. You crazy?
Yeah, I know. I seen La La Land.
Nah, it was.
It's a lot of snubs at the Oscars too. But they're not always for me.
It was a movie. It was Natalie Portman. It was oh my God, why am I blanking right now? But
you are the movie guy.
It is like I am, man, bro. I go see movies all the damn time. This is crazy. Like, I'm mad. I can't think of.
But even still, like Natalie Portman,
Huh?
Did you have movie pass?
Nah,
No, I just go to Icon Theater and they
the
No,
$5.
I just
joints,
look,
just
bro.
be
I'm
going.
just tell y'all the finesse. Yup, that $8 holler.
What's the $8 holler?
Just get the membership. Get the
Yeah, I got
membership.
the membership.
$8 VIP movies. $8 don't matter.
High five.
What?
You know what I'm saying?
I've been
Damn, that's
Bro,
next
I've been doing that
level.
shit for the last
Okay.
2 years, bro.
Okay.
Annihilation. It's god awful. It's a terrible movie.
God awful.
God awful.
Damn.
It makes no sense at all.
But
you
it
seen
be so
Snowman?
many movies that's
Huh?
like that
You seen
for real.
Snowman?
Nah, I haven't seen Snowman.
What the fuck
See
is
Snowman
Snowman?
and tell me what you think about it.
Okay, I got you.
Please
I'm gonna
watch
come back on after I watch Snowman. The reason why I didn't like Annihilation is because like it was the way that people were marketing it and were saying like, yo, it was good. It's first like all female cast and shit like that, which I was like, that's why I wanted to go see it. I was
Oh, that's
like,
pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like, I want to go see this shit. Like this shit's gonna be raw. Went to go see that shit. The story made zero sense. Like you know what I'm saying?
was bad, but I would still go see it.
The reason why I'm gonna say it didn't make sense, right? Tell me this, right? What makes sense about them interviewing her with hazmat suits on? Anytime somebody comes out of like this whole area, they always like greet them with hazmat suits. But people who went in there, nobody had a hazmat suit on. Like no one, they didn't think that shit was affecting people in any way, shape, or form. And then they still what they. If I go into any area, if I go into outer space or whatever like that, they're gonna put a spacesuit on me. If I go into something that is literally has a fucking, that's not. No, they said it was based in science.
I'm not gonna lie.
They
A
said
minor
just
detail
blow
to
up.
who can fuck me up.
Yeah.
It's like a girl.
If you
It's like
tell-
a girl have a hang toe. You about to get ready to get down with her, and that toenail keep touching your leg. It's done. I don't want it anymore.
What Cat Williams
exactly.
say? What Cat Williams say? Never in the history of niggerdom has a nigga ever said.
So
Nah, but-
what would be your favorite thing? Because I still want to get back to Sorry to Bother You.
Okay.
What was your favorite thing and maybe the most ridiculous thing about that movie?
Well, I don't want to ruin it because I still feel like people haven't
Yeah, I
seen
haven't
it.
seen
And
it
I
yet.
think like yeah. I think
Can we
it's just
issue
now.
a spoiler alert at this point? So
Yeah,
we
I-
cannot,
okay,
Like
yeah,
three
spoiler
weeks.
alert.
We are like 3
conversation.
weeks in. Yeah, it's spoiler alert.
It
I
got
feel like they
released
getting.
it got released quietly. It's not in all theaters. I don't think
Exactly.
It's,
It's not like a.
AMC,
It's not like a
you know,
nationwide type of release. Like
Yeah.
certain select.
So I feel like
theaters.
people are still trying to find theaters to go see it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but I will say, I think the concept to make a movie that exists in the sci-fi world, that exists in like the regular. I've never seen a black director or a black writer take a chance. Like, with a movie.
Yeah, that was
You know
some
what I'm saying?
freaky
Like,
shit he
just
did
take a
with that,
chance. Like,
yeah.
even if we talk about Get Out or anything else like that, it's not a chance. That's not. We're not going out on the reservation here. We're not.
Don't Be a Menace. That was.
I don't think that
Roger
Moonlight
Deakins
was
in the hood.
taking it. Like, I think Moonlight was an amazing film, but
It didn't take
if I
it
if I
there.
saw, but if someone told me about Moonlight, I would be like, that movie should win a fucking Oscar.
Yeah.
If someone
Yeah,
told
yeah,
me the
yeah,
concept
yeah,
of this
yeah.
movie, I'd be like, you fucking crazy.
Yeah,
Ain't
it
nobody
was
make that damn
so
movie.
many left turns
Huh?
and Sorry to Bother You that I did not see coming
I
from the
feel like
trailer.
Moonlight didn't take a big enough chance.
Yeah, I feel like that whole thing was extremely.
I think
Cause like for what it
I'm
is,
talking-
like it's a whole thing in a black community of niggas being undercover brothers, like what he was, and that movie was good, but it could have been like a whole lot more. Like I fucked with it. Like Moonlight was like one of those movies I didn't want to see initially, and when I seen it, I was like, damn, this shit's.
I'm talking about more so like movies being based in realism. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like Moonlight is a real story that people have told. Like, not people have told. That's a story that people can tell. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
like Sorry to Bother You is a
That took
story
some
of like
imagination.
let me just be weird. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let me just say some weird shit, and if you fuck with me, it's the same way that I feel like Atlanta takes those chances. I feel like Atlanta
Yeah.
takes like very weird ass chances, like, and you be like, yo, that's weird as fuck. Like, you shouldn't be able to. I remember reading an article about from Donald Glover, and he was basically saying that he had to like full effects every week with like, you know what I'm saying, with all of the scripts, and just basically like kind of like,
so they can start to trust him more.
so they
yeah.
could trust him. And he was like, and then all of a sudden they would see it and they be like, what? And then he'd be like, nah, it's cool. Like,
But that's just a hit online,
but
baby.
we said nigga 3 times. They be like, all right, cool. We put it out there.
I remember
Exactly, like, you know what I mean?
Season 1, when before he came out, he was basically saying like they really wanted the show to be this kind of way and this
Yes.
kind of way. And I knew 2 people who went down to premiere in Atlanta when the show first came out. And I asked him like how was it? He was like, it's different.
Yeah.
Like real different. And I remember when season 2 came out, I was listening to NPR on the way home. And like NPR does this whole thing where they'll tell you everything in the season. So I basically literally heard every episode. So when I seen the episode, even like with the fucking Mike Epps, not Mike Epps, what's that nigga?
Cat Williams.
Cat Williams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally
That shit was
knew
raw.
everything that was happening. I was talking to him, like, damn, I knew it was gonna happen. I was
Yeah.
like, damn, this shit crazy, and the way they set it up, I'm like, damn, like Florida made it whole self, and you going back and like reading different articles about Florida
people,
doing
yeah.
shit. It's wild.
It does.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
But to think from that, and I love the description. When people tell me, like, if I ask somebody, like, especially one of my homies, like, from back home or something like that, and then I ask them about, like, a movie or some shit, and they be like, yo, it's just different. I always want to go see it. Like, I was walking in Sorry to Bother You, and I went to Icon, and then dude was, like, looking at my ticket. He's like, oh, yo, man, it's weird, man. It's different. It was like some black dude. I was like,
horses,
all right,
yeah.
word.
The horse shit was
when I
crazy.
was watching it, and like
Yeah.
I think like
That was wild.
then I like kind of like nodded off like a minute or two. Then I'll look back up, and I'm like, this shit is wild.
Yeah.
This shit is like. It wasn't like wow, I was uncomfortable. I was kind of like, damn, this nigga snipped the line, and like now he's tweaking out. Like,
Man. But I
Like-
think that's
I was
the
the only black guy in the theater, which made it
Really?
a funny experience.
There's
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of- there's a lot of
It was a
white
lot. It was like a nice amount of white people
And,
when I
like,
went to
there's a
go
lot of
see
white
it.
people laughing at the wrong parts. I was like, do they know that this shit is about them? Like, I
Mm.
don't know.
But that's like
Okay.
that's the thing with white people though. Most white people don't be knowing. Like it's just funny, but
Not
then,
all the
like,
wrong parts, but just like shit.
you
that,
know,
like, was
and then
this supposed
like
to be funny?
you know, it's quote unquote silly. You know,
Yeah.
like this is
I
a
just-
laughable black
I
joke.
think like, you know, I think the point that I think we all want to get to is like a point where it's not being judged as it being like a black film. And, and
Yeah.
Boots Riley and can make a movie where like we just all go see it because it's just weird or like this, that, and there. We don't look at, you know what I'm saying, who's a famous director? I can't think of anybody. Right? Steven
John
Spielberg.
Singleton.
John Singleton. Well, John Singleton's black, right?
Yeah, I thought you said famous black actor.
No,
oh,
same
famous
white
He
white
was feeling reviewed in
director.
the same way.
We-
Oh,
Or, like,
Scorsese.
Scorsese.
Sort of
We don't.
creative
Yeah,
license.
exactly. We don't preface their name by saying like this famous white
Woody
director.
Allen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
To wrap it up, to quote Jean-Michel, he was once quoted by saying, "He is not a black artist. He's just an artist that happens to be black."
Facts.
And with that being said, Z, what can the people get new music or hear new music, or what can they anticipate?
On the come up,
something?
right? Coming soon.
Oh yeah, most
because he
definitely.
performed
I-
some
I
stuff like
kinda-
last week.
I
Yeah.
just phased out for 2
You got all
seconds.
that rich nigga gear on, all
Stop
that
it.
human made and shit.
Bro, this man has Heron
Hold on,
Preston,
hold on, this
Off
nigga get
White,
free Nikes,
everything.
though.
Hey, Virgil,
get free Nikes?
he said that shit about you. I ain't
Do
feel that
not
way about
get
you.
Free Nike Chicago. How can I get some Jordans, man?
Hey man,
Them followers up.
yo, so I got.
Get verified. Holler at us next week,
Blue
motherfuckers.
check, bitch.
Adios.
Peace, my guys.
God, bro.